Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. You are now joining Scott Muelrath on the guest list. Scott is the president and CEO of the Henderson Chamber of Commerce. I know that's a big buzzword, Chamber of Commerce. There's a few of them throughout the city and throughout the entire country, but I know this one's very special. Over 1,800 members a part of this chamber. I'm very honored to have you on here, Scott, and thank you for being here.
Hey, appreciate it, Jake. Good to be here.
Dude, Chamber of Commerce, it seems like such a prestigious name for a conglomeration of businesses, but what exactly is it? I know there's a lot of different uncertainty that surrounds it because of maybe some old adage that's part of it, but what exactly is a Chamber of Commerce?
Well, it can mean something different to everyone who, has been associated with the chamber over the years. They really fit a broad spectrum. I mean, here in the Vegas Valley or nationally, there's just all sorts of different models. And at the Henderson Chamber, we were founded in 1945, and we got a lot of a long history in manufacturing and some of the. Henderson built the bombs that ended the Second World War, and that's where Henderson was founded on this. It was really a collection of businesses that were what is right now the plants. I don't know if you're familiar with like TiMed and some of the old plants that are along Lake Mead Parkway as you're heading out towards Lake Las Vegas now. And there's a lot of old infrastructure out there from the factories when they used to, produce the bombs back in the 40s. But anyway, the war ended, and the community didn't really have a congregating point. It was actually maybe going to break apart, and it was really the business community that rallied together and said, as it formed the chamber, and then subsequently the city of Henderson formed.
Yeah, so it sounds like the Chamber of Commerce was ahead of their time. It's something that we see happening right now, but in the digital space where all of these social media influencers and the personal brands are all starting to band together and realize that they're stronger as a unit than an individual.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's the whole concept behind a chamber is that you're bringing together, all these divergent voices and different types of industries and businesses, and creating a common voice amongst the membership. So we have over, the pandemic's been tough, right? And I'm sure we'll carve into that a bit. We're probably just south of 1,700 members now. Pre-pandemic, we were well up and over 1,800. So it's quite the mix. But as you suggested, there's numerous types of chambers here in the Valley, and we work closely with all of them, whether it's the Vegas Chamber, the Latin Chamber, the Urban Chamber, Boulder City, Asian Chamber. In the end, we all want the same end game for having a successful community.
And how does somebody like you get involved with the Chamber of Commerce? Was it something that you had realized you possess these leadership qualities and tangibles to kind of harness that power and assist in 1,700 businesses to, I guess, lead them into a bright future?
Yeah, so I appreciate that question. It actually goes back prior to my time at the Henderson Chamber. I spent 9 years with Forest City Enterprises. And so amongst the different things that I did, I managed the Galleria at Sunset. I was involved in the redevelopment effort here in downtown Las Vegas, actually. We actually built the new Las Vegas City Hall, and we had a handful of blocks down here that were residential, it was needed housing at the time. And Forest City came in and bought these blocks in downtown Las Vegas, and at the time they had a vision of having a casino, and really kind of were drinking the Kool-Aid back in the boom days. That never evolved, and the downtown deal went awry for them. Obviously, we got the city hall built, but when I was also at the Galleria, we went through the recession, and there were so many small businesses, mom and pops. We had I had a portfolio of hundreds of tenants. And you would see the choices that a small business owner would make and the mistakes. And as the general manager of a large mall, You would, the business owners you'd have to work with, you'd do everything you could to keep them open. You'd go through rent relief, marketing, talk to their banks. You'd do all these things. And in the end, you would have to be the one that decided this wasn't going to work. And it was, just like you and I are sitting across the table, it would be sitting across the table from a small business owner who had lost everything. And so the chamber, Henderson Chamber, had a business resource center, and still does, down on Water Street, that was offered a lot of, it offers short-term rentals for startup businesses and an array of mentoring, counseling services, things like that. And so that was sort of my inroad. I felt kind of bad about everything I had to do in my professional career. And I was like, man, how do I get back? And so that it's called the Henderson Business Resource Center. I joined the foundation board at the chamber, and that was my entry point.
It sounds like it was a perfect switch to go over to it, where you're already in charge of, like, now you're in charge of 1,700 different businesses inside of a mall. You have a few hundred. And going back to 10 years ago when you were running the Galleria Mall, that was at its peak. It was popping. When I was younger, I used to always take the bus down to Galleria Mall. That was like the hangout spot for us. That was the fun spot where you wanted to be. So it seems like it was an easy transition because you had been doing this now for your entire length at the Galleria Mall. So it sounds like a perfect fit.
Yeah, I was taking those lessons learned in a retail and brick and mortar setting, and it was a very visible spot. Managing a mall was like managing a small town. You had leasing, security, operations, all of those things. But taking when the prior CEO retired, I knew the strengths of the community, and I knew the weaknesses of where the chamber had kind of fallen short. And so it was definitely a bit of a risk at the time. We were maybe around 700 members and maybe had like $200,000 in the bank. And so everyone was like, Muelrath, what are you doing? You're leaving this great environment. And I was just like, I feel like it's my calling. So is to help the community in that way.
Wow, that's quite a scale. About 2x from there. Yeah, little less, 1.5x, but that's a nice growth and scale opportunity. When you think about the Henderson Chamber of Commerce, just like a mall where everyone is corralled to one physical location, and you guys are called the Henderson Chamber of Commerce, does everyone have to be located in Henderson to be a part of this chamber? Yeah, no, I appreciate that question too. We affectionately call it the Henderson question. That how do you answer this? People like the sense of community that exists in Henderson, but at the same time, you don't have to be in Henderson to be a member of the chamber. And there's a lot of, affluence and influence in Henderson, and a lot of companies and individuals in Las Vegas view us as the conduit to connect with that in Henderson. And then it goes both ways, right? So over half our membership is actually outside of Henderson. And, in the end, the Valley's not a big place. What goes on the east side is going to affect, in the end, what's on the west side. And so that's how, we work back and forth on a whole lot of mediums and events. Haven't been many events as of late, but in a lot of manners to just kind of bring it all together. Yeah, I always say that Vegas is the smallest big city probably in the entire United States. Everyone is separated from 1 to 2, maybe 3 degrees of separation at the most. Just pretty much 50% of the 6 degrees of separation of Kevin Bacon. You can just really reach to anybody out in the outstretched arm. And now as society's evolving, a lot of the businesses are just completely digital, or their brands. So it sounds like you have to kind of accommodate those types of evolving businesses as well. You do. And I would, if you're trying to find a silver lining from the pandemic, it is that, business models have had to adapt and adjust. And technology is a big part of that. And I think it probably forced a lot of companies and services into the digital and different spaces that maybe made them uncomfortable in places they may not have gone before the pandemic, but it certainly pushed them into that space afterwards. And I would say it's, if we were doing business the same way as we come out of the pandemic as we went in, we wouldn't be around much longer. So we had to evolve too. That's one of the key traits of a leader, is knowing when to pivot. You have to understand that there's going to be many pivots in the road, but you don't want to pivot too early. You don't want to pivot too late. So what kind of accommodations have you guys made during this pandemic to help you guys survive?
Yeah, so I think, certainly advocacy has been a big point, and just helping people, helping businesses, helping charities. Prior to the pandemic, we had a platform that we still have now. We just call it Community Cares, but we have over 70 501c3 charities that are in our organization, and they belong because specifically we direct resources to them and to their cause and their missions. And, sometimes they're really big ones like Three Square, and then there's a lot more of them that are very obscure and might be Henderson specific. And we're, we through this pandemic, we were often the conduit to some of the larger companies and corporations that maybe were still in a position of giving and supporting. And so we could help vet and direct corporate dollars, volunteerism, and those types of things to those charities that were doing, really great work down at the ground level.
So it's like a combination of consultation and assistance and advice, and not as much hands-on per se, but I guess, and now in today's time, a lot of small businesses are going under. They say about 40% of small businesses aren't ever going to make it out. So what kind of benefits do small businesses get when they try to confide in your guys' services?
Well, and I think back over the last, 10 months, and that's, we had been very successful in how we handled our event portfolios and making a lot of personal contacts and how we would do those events. So those come to a stop, hard stop, right? So we have really moved very actively into the advocacy space, and we were there already, but, now it's really expanded from, hand-holding businesses through the different grant processes that would come up, whether it was PPP funding or getting PP&E, and advocating on the federal level. We have very good relationships across our federal delegation. And working collectively with the other chambers, we advocated for the different types of grants that you'd see evolve over these past 10 months when money would come into the community through the CARES Act. So I think one good example, the Clark County received money directly. Henderson did not, because it didn't hit a population threshold that was required. So they actually got their money from down through the county. But the city of Henderson issued several waves of grants to the small business community. The last one was specific to restaurants. I mean, they were, and they still are. I mean, that is who's hurting the most, arguably. And you have these mom and pop restaurants where they've had to let their staff go. They just got their family working it now. And so the city, Henderson specifically, came across with a third grant for specifically for restaurants to, maybe allow for build more outdoor dining space or do things that might help their business model to kind of get through and weather through this pandemic.
Yeah, advocacy is very important right now, more specifically, because through this podcast, I've discovered a lot of different businesses and individuals that existed that you therefore didn't, because of the social circle that's beginning to expand around me. But when you have 1,700 different businesses around you, it becomes hard to just be aware of all of these and to know the ins and outs of everything. So therefore you have to create this sort of advocacy or awareness kind of marketing pitch to understand what else there exists. When I had Michael Naft on the show, he said that there was about 45,000 LLCs in that district, in District A, which is, pretty much all of Henderson. So to go from 17, and that's just that area, it could be upwards in the hundreds of thousands in the entire industry. Do you guys look to target that entire LLC, 501c3 outreach of that entire model of the city? Is there like a maximum upper limit to the amount of people that can be a part of the Henderson Chamber of Commerce?
No, I wouldn't say there's an upper limit. There's we're definitely right sized. We always want to continue to grow and develop our membership, and that goes to the types of businesses and companies that are involved. There's a lot of those LLCs are not, often they're companies that aren't doing anything active in the community, but many of them are, and so we've really have a lot of pride in being a personal organization. When I first started, our mantra was large enough to be relevant, small enough to be personal. And even though we've kind of moved on from that mantra, people remember that still. And they're like, I remember that. And that it's still true for the Henderson Chamber. That's the way we go about our business. And, for the smallest of business or the largest, we just try and cater to personal, individual needs of those respective companies.
And the internal mechanics of the Chamber of Commerce, is there, when I was at UNLV and I was in a fraternity, we had a Sunday chapter meeting every Sunday, which had an executive board of about 9 different people of different positions. And then you had the other members sit on the other side, and everyone had like a little report. Is this something of a similar structure to the Henderson Chamber of Commerce?
Right. Well, I think, fraternity, hey, I was Kappa Alpha, UC Davis, graduated 93. I think they got kicked off of campus in about 99, but anyway, different story. You have that structure, and, you have those different officer positions and points of engagement, and it creates ways that, a business owner can engage with the chamber. You have to have this broad spectrum of points of engagement, because everyone is looking for something different. I mean, not everyone, but you might not like going to stuff in the morning. You might really want to know more about our impact or our political action. You might want to specifically know who's coming to town from an economic development standpoint, or you might only want to go to evening events, or it's just there's all these different things, and so I think that's part of the dynamic nature of a chamber. If you're not active across all those spaces, you're kind of curtailing who can draw benefit from your organization. And so you got to always be proactive, on the move, thinking of new ways of doing things, and active in the social media space too. And it's not an area of strength for me, but I'm getting better and better at it. So,
hey, I enjoyed your videos on the YouTube channel.
So yeah, we got some good ones over the years. Did you see the old office takes?
I looked at some of the more recent ones.
Okay. We did some funny.
Some like bloopers, some blooper type stuff?
Yeah, we did our State of the Chamber it was modeled after The Office. So it was good fun. Yeah.
I could see that being like a perfect layover for that kind of opportunity for a show. That's super, super funny. But I could see how you have to be dynamic, because after a few years or even a few semesters of being in a fraternity and doing chapter meeting, you're just like, dude, this is the same thing over and over. I just want to bang my head against the wall. Like, I'm tired of hearing the president say the same thing, of telling us to show up. And eventually you find your little cliques inside whatever organization you're on, which you feel like a closer relationship towards. And sometimes you can get more information out of somebody that you feel closer with than the president. It's like, it's hard to be relatable to all 1,700 different people.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. But that's why, it's member to member, and you serve as the conduit, and the member maybe doesn't have to draw that experience out of a chamber staff member, but as long as we connect two businesses together, that's mission accomplished. Because right now we're a team of 11, managing the business, and it's I think the whole team to the last, they're all very dedicated, very passionate about serving the community and our business community. But I think it's the dynamic nature of every day that even through the pandemic, I mean, some things got a little repetitive, as we know, but it's always that opportunity to do and experience something new.
So you said you had 11 positions outside of the more notable ones of president and vice president. What would you say are some of the we'll say important executive positions that maybe are overlooked or misunderstood?
Well, I think, we are a sales organization. I mean, we sell a product, and that's always been, when I was running the gallery at Sunset, my kids got that right. dad runs the mall. I mean, that's cool. They get it. Now dad advocates for business. And they're like, what? What does that mean? And so it's not a tangible thing, right? It's harder to put your arms around, but it is a service. And so it's a service that we sell. We have to answer that ROI question every year when someone renews their membership. So we are a sales organization, therefore, at its core. And so we have 3 team members that are full time on the sales side, and Lisa Chow's our VP of membership, and then advocacy, as I mentioned, is a big platform for us. We have the session that's just started, and of course, everything that goes on the national level. But Amber Stidham is our director of government affairs, and both Lisa and Amber are native Southern Nevadans too. So, but I'm a California expat myself, so we moved here just over 20 years ago. But those are just 2 of the key platforms, and of course you met Amanda. She's our director of marketing and does a great job for us. She joined the team actually recently from the Neon Museum. So,
oh wow,
yeah,
I guess you could see it through the sales arm. Is the main source of sales through membership subscriptions?
It is. We have, our dues are always, they're based on size of your company, but we also have sponsorship levels so that if someone wants to invest at higher levels, those go anywhere from $3,500 up to $30,000 a year. So depending on what you're looking for and the type of events or advocacy or things that you want built into that sponsorship, we kind of customize the approach.
I could see that advocacy being important, especially since you said you had a notable relationship with the regulators within the city, especially if you're starting a business and it's new. And I use this example, like Facebook. When Facebook was first starting, it was a brand new kind of thing. There was MySpace of the social network, but you don't really know how to go about it. You don't know if you want to if you're stepping outside of the law, creating something. There's regulations that haven't been put in place surrounding this. And then, but you don't have a relationship with the regulators, with anybody who works within the local government. So if you go through somebody like the Chamber of Commerce and through you can assist with that process to make sure that everything's in line and you're not stepping outside the boundaries of whatever it is.
Yeah. So I think, often people are paying with their memberships for access. We create access across the local spectrum with, the city of Henderson elected officials, with all the state elected officials as well. The county officials, Commissioner Naft, Commissioner Gibson, strong Henderson roots, and then even at the federal level. But people always want to know who's coming to town too. Like that's the main thing, and like who's bringing jobs, who needs to build something. And then that's where we've been so successful is connecting, as an organization, connecting to those developers and those pockets of influence and investment, and in turn, sourcing them, nurturing those projects along, and then in turn connecting them to the broader business community. So
interesting. So let's say like somebody who was pretty massive and notable, the Raiders, when they moved in and put their headquarters in Henderson, were you guys working alongside with them?
So we were supportive of the city of Henderson was, really key in driving that deal, and the city management, which is, they've been very business friendly and have made a lot of, great investments. And, I've had to maybe discount land at times to make a deal and get a use, but when you look at the ripple effect of the Raiders' arrival, I mean, it's big time from that standpoint, and it really brought other investment and other dollars specifically into West Henderson, and then we've experienced something very similar with the Golden Knights, and their new event center that's being built right across from our current office in Green Valley. And then they have the Henderson Silver Knights facility down on Water Street. So, the sports teams have been a key economic development driver, and it's also economic diversification. They're not the same thing, but having professional sports in Southern Nevada has been a major evolution for the community.
It's very important. There's a message that I've portrayed through the podcast a lot, and I'd like to know your opinion, to know your thoughts on it. I felt like Vegas has been a very strip dependent city, and the lockdowns has kind of showed how dependent we were. But from the people I talked to, it seemed like there was bridges that were being built out into the community from different various industries that are moving out here. Do you see signs like this through the Henderson Chamber of Commerce of maybe industries? I heard, like, for example, the film industry was starting to move out here. I've heard the adult entertainment industry is beginning to migrate out here. Do you see signs of life outside of tourism dependency in your area?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, the economic development arm of our chamber is the Henderson Development Association. And it's really, it's mostly, real estate developers and construction companies and manufacturing, primary employment, we would call it primary jobs. And as I mentioned at the beginning, there's a lot of cool manufacturing in Henderson that people don't really, and that's true of Southern Nevada, but I think specifically Henderson, there's a lot of stuff made in Henderson people have no idea about. And it is generally it's a tax-friendly environment. It's very pro-development. It has its other challenges. If it was all about taxes, every business from California would be moving here. Not the case. We do get our share, absolutely. But we've had, some real wins in the last year or two. And I think one of the big ones that we're focusing on right now is the Haas Automation plant, which is, they're a big manufacturer in Oxnard, California. And they are they're bringing their operations here from Oxnard over the next couple of years, building a big facility in West Henderson, and in turn bringing a lot of that workforce and finding workforce here. So we get very active in workforce development and support as well.
It's great to hear that manufacturing beginning to migrate out here. I think Vegas by the next decade is going to be something, it's going to go through a massive facelift that we haven't seen in the city yet, with the amount of people who have moved out here. I believe Vegas was number 2 in the most new residents that have moved out here. And I believe it was similar the year before. So there has to be for some reason, people are moving out here. That's not just the Strip to come out here. I mean, when I worked at Omnia nightclub, we had 3,000 servers apply, 4,000 servers and 2,000 bussers. And, only 1 to 2% of them actually get hired. So there's a lot of awareness around the entire world of these different positions and what they can pay out. But that's just a small amount of jobs for what the actual city has to offer.
Yeah, and it's that's been a struggle, right? I mean, even we went through the same thing in the recession. Oh, we got to diversify. We're getting killed, and here we are again, same thing, right? And and gaming is always going to be the big driver, but it's been an easy thing to say, hey, we got to diversify, and it really hasn't happened really in almost any capacity as of yet. So we're hoping these wins like the Haas Automations of the world and having professional sports here, that is substantive change. Granted, professional sports feed into the Vegas nightlife and entertainment scene for sure, but it is a different form of economic development we didn't have before.
Yeah, professional sports is almost like knighting the city. It's like you are now established. Why we recognize you as not only profitable, but a presence within the United States. And to have 2 professional sports, probably we'll have 4. Seems like the NBA is going to make that transition out here. And we've had the MLB rumors going on for years now at this point. So to see, I'd like to see other things happen as well. But with the transition to remote working, I've had a few friends actually move out here that are still, quote unquote, like employed by California positions and jobs, but they don't have to be there anymore. Like the entire migration out of California is mostly people who work for tech companies and influencers realizing like, hey, I don't have to pay $2 million in rent and whatever it is for this small house. I could go to Vegas or some of these other cities and pay 1/4 of the fee and be just exponentially happier, and your life quality is up. So,
yeah, and I think so. What you're talking about right there is what a big part of what's driving the residential housing market. Because normally kind of be sitting there scratching your head like, what is going on here? I mean, there's these home prices, the inventory is low, and everything is, market times really narrow, and there's just it's low interest rates obviously are a big driver too. But it is just what you said. I mean, it's we call it the hub and spoke model of where you still have a business core somewhere, but who needs to rent 10 or 20,000 square feet office anymore? I mean, that's a reality. And when I look back now, I talked about originally getting involved with the chamber because of our resource center. We're right now trying to relaunch the center. It's 18 years old. It's the longest resource center in town. We have a good partnership with Cooperate, and they're here in downtown Vegas. Cooperate on Main. We have a Cooperate on Water, and while shared workspace, the concept of shared workspace isn't exactly pandemic friendly, you might say, we do have small individual offices that we're remodeling this center, and it's always been full, and we've had a lot of cool uses come through. Some succeed, some don't, and that's entrepreneurialism, but we want to hopefully in the coming year be able to relaunch that center and be an attraction and a office space for remote working too.
Tell me a little bit about Water Street. Like, we're in downtown Vegas right now recording this conversation, and it's, as you can see, there's all kinds of construction ongoing down here. Any sort of downtown area, no matter what city you're in, has some life attached to it. You realize like this can be the focal point of your area. I know Water Street has attempted to be that. It's gone through some facelifts and then some ghost town periods. What's the status of that? And are you guys looking to increase that quality down in that area?
Yeah, so Water Street has a lot of character to it, and some of it's been leveraged or excuse me.
Yeah, you're good.
We specifically have a committee with the chamber called our Downtown Henderson Alliance, and it's those that are invested in the Water Street corridor, and it's part of our Henderson Development Association. So what does that mean? The city of Henderson has its offices downtown, so they're the biggest employer. The second biggest employer is small locals gaming. Tim Brooks at Emerald Island Casino, and he bought the Rainbow Club, is the next biggest employer. And so when you move past that, what's happened in the last 5 years is there's really been a higher level of investment, attention, and interest in Water Street. And so it doesn't have the critical mass yet, but what we have seen is some great mom and pop restaurants that have come in, like Juan's Flaming Fajitas. I don't know if you've been there, but
never been.
You got to. It's really good. It's next door to Love Lady Brewery, right? I mean, you start connecting things like they've been able to do in downtown Vegas here, where you get a little critical mass. You get a reason for someone to maybe walk down the street and go to the next cool thing. The Mojave Breweries on Water Street now. Public Works Coffee Bar, and then the investment, and the city was the driver of it to tear down what was the old convention center, which wasn't much, didn't do much business, and replace it with what is now the Knights facility, which is almost exactly the same as what's at City National. It's not quite as big because it doesn't have the corporate offices. But that's going to be a big driver once we kind of move more and more out of this pandemic window of, kids bringing their, folks bringing their kids down for youth hockey and different skating. And so that's right there in downtown too, on Water Street. And they just actually punched it through to Cadence, which is, one of the bigger housing developments on the east side. And so there's a lot of good stories brewing up and down Water Street. And we just got to get to cross a juncture of having the critical mass where, someone might, like yourself, would go hang out on Water Street for the evening,
Yeah, it's important. Just sitting down and living in the Arts District now for 8 months. Thursdays through Sunday, this area is packed. People are just walking in. I had no idea before I moved down here how busy it actually was, just because it does have like 3 or 4 breweries, a bunch of restaurants and antique stores, but it's just a hangout place. The younger generations, they just want to go hang out somewhere. We don't want to be in our house as much as we like to be, because if your job is, something that's just completely digital, you don't want to be stuck in your workspace. They say like you work where you live and you live where you work. Like it's something that you want to get out of. You want to go out and have a good time and take the sun in and get some vitamin D and whatever the case is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we want, Water Street to develop into that. And there's a handful of real pioneers that have invested, put their money where their mouth is on Water Street. Like Wyndham Kimsey at Tate Snyder Kimsey Architects, he moved his whole firm down there, and then he invested in and started up a Public Works coffee shop. So there's some great stories like that are, and then he moved down there. So I mean, hey, he lives on Water Street.
That's all in.
So, so that stories like that, and having visionaries like that start to make it happen. Others follow suit. So, and then the El Dorado, which is one of the old gaming facilities, it had been owned by Boyd Gaming, was bought by Joe DeSimone and First Federal Realty. So they're going to be reworking that model and getting that center open again too.
Henderson is such a unique city. For the longest time, it was the fastest growing city in the entire U.S. I'm not sure what the status is now, but when you look at Henderson, going from east to west, you have different economic areas. You have Summerlin, which is a little bit more private, community-based. And then you have the east side, which is older. All the neighborhoods they have a little bit more property to them, but they're a little bit more open. And then you have Water Street, which is kind of like in the middle-ish area. And then it seems like Henderson just keeps being extended more south with different communities and things like that. So you have probably one of the most diverse areas like within the city itself, or the overall city itself, the valley. Yeah, no, it is very expansive, and you can find, as you alluded to, like, Lake Las Vegas to the far east, and, the M anchors the west, and most people don't even realize the M's in Henderson. It's on Las Vegas Boulevard, right? So, but it's in Henderson, and there's a lot of diverse uses and neighborhoods in between, to be sure. Yeah, I like Henderson. The M's pretty cool. Trying to think what else. Is there any other casinos down in the Henderson area? Well, the big Stations has Green Valley Ranch and Stations casinos. GVR is actually a pretty good focal point as well. Yeah. And McDonald Ranch, in terms of residential areas, I keep seeing pop up on YouTube all the time for all the different magnificent mansions that are being out there, and I see some of the sports players are starting to move down there, and that's becoming a big attraction as well. Yeah, and then we have a Skya, which is our version of the Ridges on the west side. So that's a real high end neighborhood as well. Custom built homes. Do you see Henderson is there like a limit to how much can be built down in that area? I know it keeps getting extended south and southwest, but is there a point where you're just like, all right, this is as much as we can build down in this area? Well, again, I think, going back, Henderson is a very well-planned city, and that's to its advantage as it continues to grow. So it has good structure, it has good bones, if you will, good infrastructure, and especially out west and to the south. It's new communities, and that's also appealing for people moving out of other parts of the country or California, as they're moving from old into new, and there's a certain attraction to that as well. But you can also go too fast, as we know. I mean, when you look back to the Great Recession, and so I think we're slow and steady right now, and I think the valley is slow and steady as we need to build back from this pandemic. But from a development standpoint, I think that's a good pace. In terms of building back, what do you think is the right method to build the city back to I guess you can't say what it used to be, because I think now there's going to be this new normal, to be cliche about it, as people keep saying, but there's a few different trends that are ever evolving. How do you think we get back to some sort of normal pace, we'll say? Well, hopefully we'll hear in the next couple weeks that we can at least get back to a 50% occupancy across our dining and entertainment spaces. If you can be at 25%, I think you can be at 50%. Because it's hard. You go into these restaurants, and you
you don't have to be any sort of business major to figure out they're not making money. I mean, they're just barely getting the bills paid. And so, as long as people can, behave and follow the protocols and everyone does their part, personal responsibility, we should be able to, get the local businesses back at a 50% clip here soon. Beyond that, it's trying to figure out what the new norm is everyone's trying to do that right now. And whether that's, for your own business or how you handle your social life even. I mean, things are going to change, and what's going to be permanent changes and what's, going to get back to what it was, is I think what we're, trying to figure out. But I mean, to your point earlier, we do need to change, our business model and recognize our, post-pandemic community needs to have more to it to be successful. So
yeah, I think you guys are in a great place, and this is something we were talking before we started recording, that I think the way that the world is progressing, we've realized that we need to collab with each other, whether you're an individual brand, an influencer, or a business. Our strength in numbers is together, and we're kind of moving past now that territorial competitive model. You can be competitive, and you can still work together, and you can both see your income grow or your revenue grow because of that. So I think you guys are in a great position to lead that new transition to this new brave world.
Yeah, and I think we're with the Henderson Chamber, we're the strip is not our base of membership, and that's different. Say for the Vegas Chamber. I mean, big gaming does support us, but not like they would align say with the Vegas Chamber. So we're definitely more the off strip small business community association, and that's where we put our focus when we look at advocacy and our services as well. When companies relocate here, we have Henderson has, from a higher education standpoint, I mean, we obviously Nevada State College is a great four-year public institution now, but we also have Touro University. We have Roseman University of Health Sciences. Of course, CSN has a campus in Henderson. There's a lot of great educational options that help diversify and create options for people on an education front. So I think continuing to grow those opportunities for people is really important too.
Yeah, a trend that I've seen since the pandemic started was an advocacy or an emphasis on small businesses. I said this when the pandemic first started, but I think there's going to be a great emphasis on the return to localism and kind of helping out the small businesses. We've realized through the pandemic how important our local government is, our local regulators, but how vital our mom and pop shops are of all different varying degrees. So you will see a lot of people advocating for these different small businesses, mostly restaurants, but we'll see what else pops up from there. And something that I just see on social media is like, hey, this business is about to go down, and then it gets like hundreds of different viral retweets from whatever influencer, and then people go there and they have a very beautiful message that we save their business for at least the next few months. So it's really great to see that kind of thing.
Yeah, and embracing those tools, the social media tools that really have come to the forefront, I think. Positive and negative at times in the last year, but it's social media is a huge driver. And if a restaurant or a business hasn't figured out how to use it, they're probably not in business right now. I mean, it's just a critical platform, and so yeah. Yeah.
Now there's so many different social media tools. You had TikTok came up and blew up. Now you have Clubhouse that's popping up, and all these other different various ones. You had Parler that was shut down, which I found out was actually located in Vegas, the headquarters, which was surprising, but it's
Henderson, cool. Actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you friends with the owner? Did you know him at all?
Didn't know him. So we actually were getting a call a day though. Hey, do you know a Parler? It was a very common inquiry. So, yeah.
I mean, regardless of your beliefs on Parler and your political affiliations, it's still cool to see the different diversity that surrounds the Greater Valley. I went online on Twitter, it was probably about a month ago, and I said that Vegas is the most diverse city in the entire U.S. And people kind of got at me after the cultural diversity and like saying, oh, these different cities are diverse culturally. But I'm like, no, Vegas in general, there's diversity across all different sectors. You have entertainment diversity. You could go to, when Vegas is fully open, a comedy show, a nightclub. You can go out to Mount Charleston. Like you can go, I just had a guest on here the other day say that they went a few years ago, they went snowboarding, and then on their way back to the city, they went to a pool. It's like, where else can you do that kind of like entertainment diversity? It's politically diverse. It's generally a purple state, no matter what. It is culturally diverse. It's a huge melting pot of all different backgrounds and ethnicities. And you could kind of see that translated through the different restaurants that have popped up, whether you see something. So what seems strange is like, a Mexican vegan restaurant to some sort of fusion cuisine. Like there's so much different diversity out here that's what makes Henderson and Vegas so special.
Yeah. And I think, as a UNLV grad, and we were talking earlier, my wife teaches at UNLV. It's recognized as the most diverse university in the country. So I think that echoes, what you just said. It's the Vegas Valley is very much a melting pot. So
yeah, it's full of opportunity. That's time and time again. I hear this through all of the guests, and the majority of people who move out here that weren't born out here, they usually come out here for that reason, for opportunity.
Yeah. And I think looking at going back to that, the different types of chambers of commerce that are in the Valley. One of the things that one of the platforms that we've really have developed is our association health plan, and we've done that by also offering it to partnering with some of the other ethnic chambers, Latin, urban, and then geographically the Boulder City Chamber. But we've had a very successful platform. We started this association health plan with United Healthcare on January 1st, and we already have about 350 businesses and over 8,000 lives insured in the respective plans. So it's been a much needed service, and is a good example of something that a Chamber of Commerce can do by banding together small business to get larger buying power.
Oh, that is amazing. Can you expand a little bit on what the health plan is comprised of?
Yeah, so there's 4 specific association health plans we have. They are industry specific, so they're geared towards manufacturing is one, construction is one, retail is one, and then services, which is right now the biggest plan. And so they're fully insured health insurance plans, and I always say ACA compliant, and they're aligned with United Healthcare, Sierra, as most people know it here in Southern Nevada, which is the biggest provider. And the concept is simple in the sense that by pulling together all of these small businesses, you get larger buying power to get lower premiums. So if a business joins the Henderson Chamber, they can look into those health plans and then buy into them, have a lower rate that they can in turn offer their employees. So it's a good way to a lot of companies have extended insurance coverage because they were able to get it at a lower rate and created an option for their employees in turn. So
yeah, I know health insurance for the employees is very expensive on the employer. So even if you're a small business of 10 or 15 people to partner up, you could probably save thousands or tens of thousands just through that kind of nature.
Yeah. No, and we have we have the full range of plans from HMOs to PPOs to POS plans, and not individuals. So like an individual entrepreneur, which I'm going to assume you are, yeah. You would you'd have to buy an individual plan or go to the Silver State Exchange and get a plan. But even those are, quite expensive as an individual. But our association health plans have been a great product, and now we have what would be the second largest Pathway 1 association health plan that's chamber affiliated in the country. So,
do you guys offer any other of these kind of group buying power packages outside of health insurance?
Well, I think what we get is, we would call them membership benefits. So just when someone is a partner with us, and they have a deal that they want to offer just to chamber members, then we have that opportunity across a wide range of offerings. Like it could go from Finley Automotive, where we have a specific discount program through them, to different discounts on products and services. So
yeah, I could see why different businesses or enterprises like that would approach you when you have 1,700 businesses, which could equate to 10,000 people or more underneath you guys.
Yeah, no, it's hundreds of thousands of people that when you look at the full employee counts, because our typical member, 80% of our members are going to be 20 employees or less, but we have a lot of we do have the MGMs and the bigger companies that also are supporting our organization. So it's very dynamic and very far-reaching in that way. Yeah.
And what makes up the Henderson Chamber of Commerce? Is there a specific abundance of any types of businesses, whether it's like restaurants or salons or anything like that?
Most commonly is services, and that's a pretty general term, right? But it's anything from your public relations firm to your accounting firm to your law firm, different service companies like that. We also have, a lot of retailers, mom and pop brick and mortars that are members. Some of the bigger online companies, the Racketons of the world are members. And we have a big focus again through our Henderson Development Association on construction and development. So a lot of the builders, the Martin Harrises of the world, Whiting Turners, Arno Construction, the bigger contracting companies, we're always working to identify companies coming here that may want something built, and then we can help connect the dots in that way too.
Is there a minimum employee threshold to enter as a membership?
No, one employee. We have a lot of sole proprietors, one person shops that engage with us, and it's on and up from there. So yeah,
I guess that makes sense, because you don't want to limit it to a minimum threshold, because some of these sole proprietors could end up becoming 10, 20, 50, 100 person LLCs eventually when they transition to something broader.
Yeah, no, and that's the hope, right? You're going back to our resource center on Water Street. That's the idea, is you get an entrepreneur that moves in there, and maybe they're just, two people working, then they get three, then they get four, and then they got to move out because it's a small office. So, that would be a success story. And we have quite a few of those companies that have kind of graduated out of the resource center because they got too big and moved out into the broader community and expanded into the tax base. So.
How long has the resource been around for you guys?
It's been 18 years. Yeah, and it's in the Wells Fargo Bank building on Water Street. And again, we're just at this opportunity of having a chance to refurbish it and relaunch the whole concept. So that's our hope as we move through the coming months, that we're going to have an opportunity to do that.
That to modernize it to a degree per se.
Yeah, it's tired, right? It's an office building that's been there for 18 years, and it needs everything from new furniture to new carpet, new paint, maybe move a few walls around and, restructure a few things in there. But an entrepreneur wants to be inspired. If you're working out of your house and you want an office space, you want to go somewhere that, you're going to be excited about going to. You'll find it motivating and the environment stimulating. And, and that's not just the building, that's the whole Water Street corridor. We all want it, it all works together in that way.
Yeah. You're going to have to, I just had a gentleman on here who runs Graffiti Park, and they painted a lot of these from murals down this area. Get some art down there, you'll definitely get people walking down in that area. It's very inspiring. I have to say, like this area specifically in the art district, if there wasn't any murals and magnificent paintings, I would probably be less motivated, honestly, maybe a little more terrified.
Yeah. No, when you do go down to Water Street, make sure you go all the way to the south end where Public Works is at, and TSK Architects. They have a really cool full wall mural down there. So hopefully more like that's coming, as you say. So
yeah, it seems like artistic expression is generally like the ground floor now, as we, to be cliche and say it again, as we move into this new age and automation begins to kind of disintegrate some of these traditional jobs, we have to be more in tune with our creativity, whether you're a painter or some sort of content creator or just an artistic intellectual who just like creates ideas and has vision boards or connects people to say like you, for example, you have to have a big artistic expression because you're pairing different people together, right? You're almost like the business Cupid of Henderson.
There we go. Let's try that on. We got Valentine's Day coming, so yeah. So it definitely is that. It's being the conduit and connecting. That's what we actually call Lisa Chow, our VP of membership, just the connector. So if we're not doing that, we're not doing what people need. So.
Do you enjoy being president? Do you see an end near? Do you plan to pursue this longer to continue this grind and to just scale this vision outwards?
Yeah, it's a broad question in that sense. It's been almost 10 years, and we've done great things with the organization. Really, really proud of the accomplishments and the people that we've helped and the businesses that we've grown. And going from 700 members to what is hopefully back up to 1,800 members here in the coming year. Next steps, as we continue to grow, it's about. I think the most interesting thing about it, the chamber, the Henderson Chamber, is it's just the opportunity to always do something new, create a new opportunity, a new program, a new marketing medium. And we're still doing that. I think once I feel like we're not doing new anymore, then that's a good time to change leadership, right? So, but I think right now, the community definitely needs everything that the Henderson Chamber is doing, and I'm enjoying leading that effort. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you're doing a great job. Like the numbers speak for itself, and I'm sure over 10 years, going 1.5x. It seems kind of low in comparative to what you see some of these social media companies and tech companies in terms of scaling, but in a local area, it's pretty much one by one that you had to tack on and bring that on. And so it's actually a pretty magnificent growth to see happen. Yeah,
no, we appreciate that. And, it was hard to believe starting that we just had a $500,000 budget and, $200,000 in the bank, as I say. So it's come an awfully long way. And
do you ever have any massive, over this 10-year journey, were there any huge hurdles or maybe moments where you thought you guys weren't going to be able to survive that you had to overcome?
Yeah, I think that the first 2 years were, when we were, just losing money and kind of hemorrhaging members. But what I knew when we started is that the chamber had not remade itself out of the recession. And I knew it had community to leverage, and it had an identity. Henderson had an identity that we could really lean into. So we really wrapped our arms around that. And the first couple of years were, pretty nip and tuck there to get it going. There were different efforts to maybe even absorb the Henderson Chamber into other advocacy organizations. And Henderson has very proud history. And so we stood tall, answered those ROI questions, and really rallied around the business community. Really rallied around us and what we were doing, and here we are.
And nothing speaks louder than your community presence, right? Anyone can make money and increase your ROI, and no matter what business you're doing, you can easily just cut corners and increase that ROI and kind of get a negative stigma attached to you. That's what you see a lot of these public companies go. But if you lead with your passion and the sense of community and camaraderie and show people that you're trying to make a difference, then people will really see into that vision, and the money and the ROI will increase thereafter because of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You get the buy-in, and you just have a personal way of doing business. And in the end, people like doing business with people they know. And, with that comes trust. And so I think that's, again, it just goes back to the ability to identifying what a business or an individual needs and finding the right partner and connecting them.
Yeah, I see a lot of these businesses now are kind of transitioning to this social capitalism, or which per se, where they're not the younger generations are looking more into making a change, whether it's through experience or investing in a social cause or donating a portion of the proceeds to a cause. Starting to see a lot of those people transitioning into this conscious capitalism model, which was a book that John Mackey, who's the CEO of Whole Foods, wrote about, which is, it's really cool to see. And I'm really starting to see that flourish, especially on social media, with just the amount of awareness that's spread on all these different causes and donations, and to just assist each other, that the businesses want to pull everyone up together and not tear everyone down in this non-zero sum game.
Yeah, no, and it a couple of cool stories that, I'm probably some of my favorite and most proud moments as being the leader of the Henderson Chamber is through charitable efforts. And one was, it was the Foothill High marching band, right? So this was I guess 5 years ago. And they were trying to, they had been accepted to march in the Macy's Day Parade back in New York. And Henderson hadn't had a band participate in that way. And, it was helping the kids and helping, it also showed that Southern Nevada had a community to it by seeing this band out in the Macy's Day Parade marching. So we went on a capital campaign and raised about $25,000 so that every one of those kids was able to make the trip. And so it was a great moment. And, similarly, we've had some, other opportunities where the business community has rallied up and rallied around some of our schools and some of those causes. That social conscience, just that you're talking about, that you got to have a healthy nonprofit and charitable community, and you got to have the social conscience to feed that as well. And it's good business. Giving back is good business.
It feels good too.
Yeah, no. And I think, and that's when I say these are some of my favorite moments. That's why it feels good. And another cool story was the Nate Mack Robotics Elementary School team in Henderson. The Casey Giuliano is the teacher there, and she was just a champion. Formed this robotics club. These kids from an underprivileged neighborhood, and they won the state championship. The robotics club did, and they're like, "What now?" They were going to go to Louisville, Kentucky, and they never expected to be able to qualify for the world's competition. And it was Casey reached out. I just got a 2-line email from her. I didn't know who this person was. And she said, this was a situation. I was like, I think we can do something here. And then we just once again, just rallied up the business community. And, in about 10 days, we, raised about $10,000. And every one of those kids from that club was able to go back to Louisville, Kentucky. Many of them had never even left the Valley. And, it was, like you said, it made you feel good to help that cause and help that it also helps the branding of Southern Nevada. And when you see our kids and our groups getting out beyond, beyond Las Vegas.
And the people who are from Vegas are so prideful, right? When you see people who are from Vegas go out and make it, like Bryce Harper and Chris Bryant, who are both superstar MLB players, and Jimmy Kimmel and a bunch of these other people, they bring up Vegas any opportunity presented, to know that we are a different kind of breed and we love our city, and that you can make it out in the city and to make some sort of substantial impact in the world.
Yeah. Don't forget our bands either, right?
Yeah. Hey, our Little League team usually makes it into the Little League World Series.
That's true.
That's always super cool to see when you see Vegas on there. You're like, and I say Vegas as just the entire area. Right. Combined is more how I see it. It's cool to see.
No, absolutely. It is.
Before we get out of here, I have one parting question for you. It's the same question I ask everybody, and I'll throw in Henderson. What does Las Vegas and Henderson mean to you?
Opportunity. And even in a post-pandemic era, which we'll be in soon, there's challenges, there's great challenges, but within all those challenges, there's opportunity. And you got to find those opportunities, seize it, grow it, and then you'll figure out your next chapter. So
Perfect. Well said. Where do I send all of the listeners and viewers to learn more about you and the Henderson Chamber of Commerce?
HendersonChamber.com. You can follow us on all the social media outlets too. But come check us out. We have come one, come all. We have all types of businesses, as we just covered, that are members. So we're proud to help.
Representing the Greater Valley in the most diverse effort possible. Thank you so much, Scott, for coming on. Enjoy your guys' mission. I really do believe in that. That's something that I really believe in, is banding together, no matter if you're an individual, a personal brand, or a business, and create this strength in numbers, because we could do so much more together in a collaborative effort.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. Collaboration's key.
Hey, thank you guys for listening, and we will catch you next time.